going, everyone? Sitting low, just hanging out, driving home, coming at you guys with another video. I figured maybe in this one we could do a little bit of something different. The channel's been kind of random lately, so I figured maybe have a little fun with this one. If you've been around the channel long enough, you know that I love old school BMX bikes and just bicycles in general. So anyway, got myself a new little project back there. I figured in this video maybe you guys can help me clean it up a bit. So I'm on my way home with it right now, so we'll check it out once we get there. See you in a minute. Alright guys, so basically what we're looking at here is a 1987 Hutch Wind Styler, and this is the team model. And believe it or not, I actually had one of these bikes when I was a kid growing up, and I actually pulled it out of the trash, if you can believe that. Basically, there was that period in your life when your parents are both working, so they drop you off at grandma and grandpa's house all day so they can go to work and make money, and you can just sit there and terrorize grandparents all day. Well, anyway, one day I was at grandma's, trash day. I looked over next door at the garbage can. I saw a pair of forks poking out of it, so 9-year-old me wandered over there and started rummaging through the trash can, pulled out a Hutch Wind Styler frame, fork, handlebars, basically a complete bike minus the wheels and tires. So anyway, like I said, I had one of these exact bikes when I was a kid. Found this one pretty locally. This is a one-owner bike. The original owner had it ever since he bought it in 1987, and he kept it in the best condition that he could have kept it in. It's literally been hanging in a garage since 2001. He said the last time he actually rode it was in 2001, and at that point he had these tires put on it because the original ones from the 80s were pretty well rotten by then. And he says that he also put these pedals on it. Either way, other than the couple little things that he changed, like the grips, tires, pedals, he said this bike is exactly how he purchased it from the bike store in 1987, which is kind of strange to me because I know for a fact that this bike did not come with this sprocket. This is just like a random sprocket you would see on like a Western Flyer, like beach cruiser. These bikes originally came with a solid disc sprocket with a little white circle, and it just said Hutch on the opposing crank arm. So, and the fact that this one is a 42 tooth, they normally came with a 44 tooth. So the fact that this is a 42, you can see how far this wheel is back in this dropout. And as you can see, these dropouts here, they are immaculate. I mean, normally these things are all chewed up and just from people wrenching on these things over the years. But like I said, this guy either didn't ride it much, or when he did ride it, he just took really, really good care of it. The fact that like these thread-in peg standers are still here is just amazing. Typically all these things get lost in time. My plan with it is to go ahead and clean it, restore it. I've already got some new tires for it, got some new grips for it, just a couple little amenities. And like I said, I'm going to try to clean this thing up the best I can. As you can see on the frame here, it's got a lot of surface rust. It's just pretty, the condition you would expect a 37-year-old bike to be in, just hanging in a garage. So before we clean it up, I figured take it for a little spin around. I gotta tell you, man, this thing feels no different than the one I used to have. It feels like I'm back in 1987. Every time I crank, my ankles clip those little frame standers just like they did in 1987. So I'm excited for this one, you guys. I love these old freestyle bikes. I love all old bikes, but for some reason these old freestyle bikes are the ones that resonated the most with me. It made me fall in love with the whole BMX culture. Back in early and mid 80s, the only pretty much BMX media we had was like the movie Rad and a couple of magazines. Once I saw the movie Rad when I was a young kid, I was literally obsessed with BMX bikes. I mean, I've always been obsessed with bicycles, and riding bicycles has always been one of my favorite things in the world, but watching the movie Rad like solidified it, seeing all the tricks and the moves and the stunts those guys are doing even back then. After that, I was literally, like I said, obsessed. Before that, a bike was just a toy, a means of like transportation to get from point A to point B. But once I saw that, man, it was on. So these things always take me back to it, just a much simpler, better time in life. And like I said, all things considered, this bike ride's really good. But anyway, you guys, like I said, I just wanted to give it a quick shakedown before I went ahead and broke it all apart and started to clean everything up. And like I said, it rides really nice. So Anyway, let's go ahead and get this thing cleaned up. All right guys, so before we get started, the first thing I typically like to do is I like to give everything a nice bath. Before I even start turning wrenches, start buffing or doing anything, just start off with just cleaning it. Like I said, this thing's been hanging in a garage for 30 years. You know, it's got plenty of dust and surface rust and stuff on it from just hanging. Plenty of grease and grit and grind from over the years. Wheels are dirty, tires are dirty, chains dirty, everything's dirty. So first order of business, you guys, typically when I'm cleaning up an old bike, is I just start with first giving it a nice bath. Because I mean, if you don't give it a nice wash or bath at first and there's a bunch of dust on it, you just start buffing, rubbing compounds and stuff in it. Basically all you're doing is smearing dust and dirt and whatever into your paint finish or your chrome. So like I said, the first order of business is to just scrub it down. As you can see, it's got plenty of little surface rust spots. And I'm fairly confident, as you can see, there's barely any reflectivity in this thing at all at this point. You know, normally chrome is like a mirror-like finish, but as you can see, this one's actually pretty dull. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a nice bath. And after that, we might have to break it all down and just polish the entire frame, handlebars and everything. But anyway, first order of business is always a nice bath. So I'm gonna give it a nice scrub down and then I'll report back. All right, so here it is after I gave it a nice hot water bath. And as you can see, just by using hot water and just dish soap, I was able to clean it up really nice. So now that I'm confident that we don't have any, you know, dirt or debris on it, we can go ahead and start. The next step would be just to start trying to polish out a lot of this little micro surface rust spots here. First, before I start doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the front and rear wheels off, probably pull the chain off and just get it to where I could easily, you know, be able to get into all the little nicks and crannies and stuff like behind these dropouts and stuff like that. And that'll also allow me to clean these wheels and hubs up a lot better as well. But like I said, initially I just wanted to give it a nice bath to clean it up, and it's already looking worlds better. So I'm very confident that once we're done with this thing, this is gonna look pretty much like a brand new bike. So anyway, next step, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the wheels and tires off, pull the chain off, and then we can start figuring out how we're gonna get this rust off. So stick around. Okay, so how I think I'm going to go about removing all this micro surface rust on it, because like I said, it is mostly just surface rust, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to use steel wool, and what you want to do and pay attention to is the grading on it. As you can see, there's different numbers here, and I'm using the 0000, which is the finest, I guess, the least abrasive steel wool you can find. And to do this, you always want to have some kind of lubricant on the surface, otherwise you're probably just going to be creating little micro scratches while you're getting rid of the micro rust. So you always want to have some kind of a good lubricant on hand just to keep everything, you know, moving along. And so I already got a piece here. I already started touching up a little area here on the forks. As you can see, here's where I've already polished and here's where I have not. So as you can see, it's a dramatic difference. But anyway, like I said, there's a couple ways to go about doing this. You could strip it all down and dunk the whole frame in like a citric acid bath or an oxalic acid bath. Or like I said, this really isn't too horrible a rust. So like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of hand sand all this stuff out of there. So before we get started, let's just get a good, probably the worst spot on the handlebars right there. See, it's all got the little micro pitting all over it and all throughout. Gyro, stem, and there's not too bad actually. I'm not too worried about the sprocket because I am ultimately going to be changing the sprocket to the one that actually belongs on this bike, because I don't know why that was changed. I think maybe just somebody wanted to have like an all chrome kind of bike deal and they didn't like the white sprocket. I don't know, but either way, I'm not digging that sprocket, so I'm gonna be finding a new one of those. But yeah, it's a beautiful bike. Look under the stem, not a single hammer mark or anything on it, not a scratch. Very nice. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and scrubbing on this thing. And yeah, I'll update you guys as we go along. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue on where I started, and I'm just gonna do this fork. And as you can see, drop out there is pretty pitted. There's the one that I already started. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and pull this brake caliper off, and that will allow me to get, you know, full range all over the thing without having to fight and get in between here the whole time. So pull the caliper off, do the fork, and we'll check it out when it's done. All right, so we got our piece of steel wool and we got our lubricant. What I like to do is literally just saturate this whole thing with it. You know, some people may want to wear gloves while doing this. I don't mind. And then just give the frame a light touch. And just kind of work it in, just slowly work it in. I'm not even really applying any serious pressure. You don't want to press too hard because, like I said, the last thing you want to do is start creating little micro scratches to get rid of little micro rust. So just kind of move it around, swirl it around, move it around, swirl it around. Don't apply a whole lot of pressure. Just let the steel wool and the WD work its magic. Now, like I said, this is really light surface rust. If this was more deep pitted type of rust, and I would probably go with like a more chemical means of stripping it via like a citric acid bath or something like that. But like I said, you just wanna keep the steel, the chrome lubricated. That's already looking so much better. Spin it around. I can still see some pitting back here because I haven't even touched it, but over here you can see where I've kind of lightly did the back. So let's keep going. Keep it moving. I've been working on and restoring these old bikes for a long time, and I've tried pretty much everything as far as like removing rust from chrome. And pretty much the citric acid bath is like, you know, probably the best way I've found to do it. It works really, really well. And it is, it's just more of a time consuming process. And you got to have a tub big enough to, you know, submerge the frame, and you got to, you know, let the frame or your parts or whatever soak for, I don't know, at least 24 hours or more, depending on how nasty the rust is. But that's definitely requires the least effort. It just takes the most time. This requires probably the most effort, but takes the least time, if you ask me. Because, I mean, we'll have this whole frame, you know, if we just work diligently and just keep going, we'll have this whole frame cleaned up in maybe, I don't know, an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And we won't have to disassemble the entire bike. That's the only reason I'm going about this method, is because A, the rust isn't too bad, and I don't feel like pulling all these brake cables and all that stuff off and everything apart. I am going to remove the handlebars and just the easy to remove parts, but as far as like stripping all the, you know, cables and stuff, no. You know, the cables are original to the bike. I don't want to replace them. So that's one of the things about these old school bikes, is they're only original once. So if you can save the chrome, if you can save the paint, if you can save the cables, if you can save anything, you know, just, I mean, there's many schools of thought with what you should and could do with these old school BMX bikes. Me personally, I like the survivors. The ones that have withstood the test of time, the ones that are still original, or the ones that are still like as ridden by the owners. Those are the ones that have the battle scars. Those are the ones that wear their scars proudly. Those are the bikes with personality. And then there's the people that like to go all out and do full-blown restorations and make them look like brand new bikes in the bike store, which that's cool too, but I don't know. I like the survivor stuff. I like to ride my bikes. I don't like to just stare at them, you know, have them look pretty in a corner. I like to actually get out and ride these things, so it's survivors for me, I guess. Yeah, this fork's pretty much done at this point. We probably got, I don't know, 10 minutes into it. Make sure to get around these peg bosses really good. All right, so I just finished up with the fork, and check it out now. As you can see, it is pretty well rust-free, inside and out, front to back. The only thing I still gotta focus on is I gotta get right up in this little armpit here where that freaking cable is. But don't worry, you guys, I'll get it. There it is now. I told you guys I did it. Anyway, I think the next thing I'm gonna do moving on is I think I'm gonna remove the handlebars. Just gonna take the brake levers off, pull the handlebars off. That way I can just lay them right on the bench right in front of me. Just work on those handlebars. All right, now we can work on the bars and not have to worry about anything else, and having the bars removed, we'll also be able to get the stem cleaned up really nice as well. All right, so I got the bars removed and I got them on the table here, and that's just gonna make cleaning these things up a whole lot easier. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and pull these grips off. I'm ready to go ahead and get working on these bars. All right, so now we got the grips removed. Let's go ahead and get these bars shined up. Just get a good look at the before. Like I said, they're not horrible. But then again, they're not perfect either, so. It's one of my favorite things about 80s freestyle bikes is just the different variations of different handlebars. Everybody had some kind of weird gimmick going on with their handlebars. Hutch had this 3-tier thing. Haro had their knee saver bars. They made these crazy handlebars with a big old loop that went around so you could hold a big gulp from 7-Eleven. Vector bars, all kinds of just weird stuff going on in the 80s. Everybody was just trying to be different. Everyone was trying to have their own little niche and design, and there was a lot of copycats. A lot of stuff worked, a lot of stuff didn't work. But either way, it was all cool. It was just a fun experimental time with BMX. So yeah, that rust is definitely coming out, but there's a bit of a scar right there. I wonder if he maybe dropped the bike when he was younger and riding it, and it just left that little imperfection there. Who knows? All right, so every now and again you'll come across a scar that's got like a pretty deep little pit. If you're trying to get the rust out of that pit, sometimes you can take one of these little pick tools, just kind of go in there, almost like a dentist, you know, picking at your teeth with their little scraper deal. Sometimes you can scrape that plaque right off of it. So anyway, I think you guys are getting the point. I'm going to continue on with doing these center bars, and yeah, then the handlebars will be done. I'd say we got about 5 minutes into these as well. So like I said, the trick is to just keep going. All right, now that we got the handlebars done, let's go ahead and make way for the frame again. All right, now we got the handlebars and the fork out of the way. I guess all we gotta really focus on left in here is the frame and the rest of the parts. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this gyro cable, just so it's not in our way and flopping all around. Original gyro cable from '87. Very cool that this is still around. Get that out of our way. That'll allow us to get in here nice and easy. So yeah, I'm just gonna start with the frame, and once I get the majority of the bigger tubes done, then I'll start working on a lot of this smaller stuff here, like the gyro plate and the headset cups, and just however it comes with that. So like I said, I'm gonna focus on just getting the main tubes and everything done, and then we'll work on, like I said, all the small stuff. So let's get to it. You guys already know the deal. So just pre-soak the whole, any of the areas that I plan on working on, just kind of pre-soak it. And you know what comes next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way front to back on one side, and once I get the side done, I'm going to spin it around and pretty much do the same thing, work front to back on the other side. So I'm going to get this side done first, which I'm already about halfway done. I'm about to from here to here, from here to here. So just got back here to do, and then we can wash, rinse, repeat. All right, so one thing I do want to point out is if your frame still does have the decals on it, as you can see, the decals have been stripped off this one, but this one here still remains. If your frame still has the decals on it, you can use the steel wool around it, and you can even go over them. Like I said, as long as you don't use too much force and too abrasive, wool, you can get around the decals without hurting the decals. So just wanted to point that out. I'm gonna go ahead and get this rear brake out of my way too. That way we can get the seat stays and the brake bridge really good as well. So now that we've got that brake caliper out of our way, we can go ahead and really get in here really nice. Clean this brake bridge up really good. Now these areas here, typically behind the back wheel, are usually the areas that are affected the most with like rust and pitting and stuff like that. That should be from the wheel just slinging dirt and grime all against it, and this is an area that rarely ever gets thoroughly cleaned, so expect to work a little bit harder in these particular areas. All right, so at this point we're about halfway done. As you can see, it's looking a whole lot better. As you can see, this is one of the dropouts I did. This one I haven't touched yet, so I'm just gonna keep moving along, get this thing done. So here's another situation where the little pick tool comes in real handy. I don't know if you guys can see right in there, but there is not very much getting in there. So you use this little pick tool, try to snake it in the best I can, and just kind of pick around, scratch around gently, lightly, and we'll check it out when it's done. All right, so here's that same spot after picking at it for a little bit. So is it perfect? No, but is it a lot better than it was? Absolutely. So definitely keep that in mind. All right guys, so pretty much at this point I've got all the main tubes. I got the forks done, the handlebars done, dropouts, pretty much everything done. The only things that I haven't worked on was this seat post here. I haven't touched this sprocket yet. I haven't done this crank arm yet. And I'm just gonna start kind of cleaning up the small parts now. Working my way around this headset. I just cleaned all the grease and funk and gunk out of here just to get all that out of there. So now I can go in here and try to polish up this top plate, get this stem quill looking nice, and see what I can do about cleaning this stem all up. Same thing goes with the sprocket. I know I said I wasn't too concerned with the sprocket. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try to get it the best that I can. So anyway, you guys, it's coming along pretty quick, and it's looking pretty good. Like I said, this thing's cleaning up very nice. I'm very, very stoked with how this is coming out. So I'm just gonna keep plugging away. All right, so before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I'm gonna go ahead and get just these areas underneath that I couldn't get to. Now that I got access to them, that'll just allow us to, just fine detail this thing, get everything looking nice. So all right, at this point, we've got pretty much the entire mainframe done, the whole front end done. We've got the gyro and the headset area looking really nice. We got the stem looking as good as we could for now. I'm gonna hit it with the metal polish, and that's gonna make it look a lot better. The only thing we really got left to do now is the seat post, the sprocket, the cranks, the pedals, and the brakes as well. Granted, we're not gonna steel wool these brakes, or we're not gonna steel wool these pedals, but I am going to spin it around, get this sprocket all cleaned up. But first I'm going to go ahead and pull this seat post out of here. Hopefully it's not stuck, and clean this up the best I can. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's got a slight bend to it. I don't know if I'll be able to correct that here, but yeah, if worse come to worse, just buy a new seat post. But yeah, you can see like right there, it's got pretty dramatic bend in it. So But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the seat post out, clean that up, then we'll move on to the sprocket, clean that up, then we'll pull the brakes off. You know what to do. Anyway, see you in a minute. Yeah, you can see how bent this thing is. I might just go ahead and just replace this. Now I know it's not the, if I replaced it, it would no longer be the original, but at least it wouldn't be all bent as shit like that. Look at that. That ain't no good. I guess in the meantime I could try to straighten it, but... Alright, so in an attempt to straighten the seat post, what I did here is I took this solid plank of wood here, piece of leather so I didn't mar the surface of the chrome. I just kind of wedged it in this vise here. And as you can see, it straightened it out pretty good actually. So yeah, I'm not going to press my luck and go anymore, but I more or less just kind of, you know, made this little fixture, I guess, and as I tightened the vise down, it just applied pressure, you know, opposing where it was bent outward, and just kind of pushed everything inward. And yeah, definitely better than it was. So okay, so I made an attempt to straighten the seat post out, and as you can see, compared to what it was, it is a lot freaking better. So saved a little bit of money in that sense, and we still have our original part to the bike. So you can already see that that post is a lot straighter than it was. So I'm actually glad we did that. And now that the seat is off of it, I'm gonna go ahead and take the seat over to the sink, scrub the seat up really good. So we got our seat nice and clean. You can see underneath looks all nice now. Before it was disgusting. It was all black in there and just dirty. But as you can see now, it's nice and clean. I was even able to get that white scuff that was there off. So a lot better. Now we can go ahead and put it back on the bike. That looks so much better without that bent seat post. God, that is one of the biggest pet peeves of mine, is a bent seat post followed by upside down seat guts, and followed thirdly by improperly routed brake cables, but I digress. But anyway, it's starting to look like a bike again, you guys. All I gotta do now is, like I said, clean up these brake calipers here, and then we can go ahead and work on the wheels and tires and get those all cleaned up. And then we can just put it all back together. We should be riding this sucker. Yeah. How I'm going to go about cleaning up these brake calipers while they're still attached to the bike. First off, I'm going to go ahead and just sub them down. I like using Dawn dish soap. Cuts grease. And I like to use an old paintbrush that I kind of trim the bristles down. This paintbrush was a throwaway, and I figured, it might be still useful for something, and it sure is, because look at this. Use it to get in all these little nooks and crannies. And it's going to make this brake caliper look brand new. Squeeze the caliper so you can get inside. Flip it over, make sure you get the back side. That pad's all nice and clean too. Just go ahead and rinse it off. Would you look at that? Minty fresh. All you gotta do is put it back on the bike. Alright, so that front caliper is looking mighty nice, if I do say so myself. I didn't even polish it or anything like that. I may make an attempt to clean this lock nut up a bit, but as of now it looks a lot better than it did. So all I got to do now is spin it around and get this rear one. Alright guys, so as of now I just got the calipers loosely fit back on the bike, because I do plan on removing them when I do the final step, which is, you know, the metal polish on the frame. But as of now, we're pretty much rounding second base, headed to third. I'm gonna go ahead and work on these wheels and tires now, get those all cleaned up, get the new tires and tubes put in, because these tires just ain't cutting it. This front one was blown out to begin with. The sidewall's starting to split on it, and plus I just don't really like the looks of these tires to begin with. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull those tires off, pull those tubes out, and then I can get these wheels all cleaned up and put the brand new tires and tubes on, and should be styling after that, so I'll be back in a minute. One. That's number 2. It's kind of a bummer because I wanted to keep these tires, but as you can see, this one is splitting right here at this seam, so this tire is no good. If I were to keep riding it like that, it would just blow out, so that tire is junk, but the tubes are good. So we're gonna be stealing those. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start cleaning these wheels up. And the rear wheel is gonna be a little bit more work because it's got all the grease and funk from the chain line and the freewheel and stuff kicked all over it, so scrub this one a little. Probably gonna have to put a little more work into the back wheel than you will the front, so it's just usually how it is. As you can see back here behind, all that dirt and funk in there. Give me about 2 minutes and you won't see that anymore. All right, so the back wheel's done. Back wheel turned out really nice, actually. All right, so one thing I am going to do while I got this thing all taken apart is I'm gonna pull these wheel bearings out. I'm gonna go through, clean them, and repack them because these things are feeling kind of grody. You can just kind of feel all the dirt and grime kind of circulating its way around in there. So we're going this far, we might as well go all the way with it. The front one didn't feel too bad, but the back one felt terrible. All right, so we got our wheels cleaned up. Let's go ahead and put these tires on. All right, guys, so for the tires, I'm using these Panaracer HP 406s. Nice skin wall tire. These are going to look really nice on these wheels, so let's go ahead and put these on here. All right, we got it. All right, guys, so you see what I did there? I got my valve stem here. Got the logo up top here. It's not necessary, but like I said, it's just one little detail to just make your bike look a little nicer. Make your build look a little more profesh. So drive side, logo, non-drive side. All right. So got one. See what I'm doing is, I don't know if you guys will be able to see, but there's a line, kind of like a molded line that goes all the way around the rim. I'm just trying to make sure that that line is pretty much even with the outer rim, so that way the tire isn't, you know, hopping or doing anything weird. One of my pet peeves is having a tire that's out of round. And some tires, like cheap tires, like tires you order from Amazon, and some other tires, it doesn't matter how many times you do this, they'll just have that hop to it. So another reason why you want to spend a little extra and get good quality tires. Part of me almost considered going with white tires for this bike because that's what it originally came with. But I don't know if you guys have ever had white tires on a BMX bike, but dude, you go right around the block and literally just right around your driveway and the tires look like ass. So I just decided to stick with the black skin wall because I plan on riding this bike. This one isn't just going to sit here and look pretty. I plan on riding this, so. It has a little bit of hop to it, but we'll adjust it once we get it on the bike. All right, guys, so as of now, we have rounded third base and we are pretty much headed for home right now. All I got left to do is I said I was gonna throw a quick coat of metal polish on this frame. So I'm just gonna knock that out real quick. Shouldn't take very long. I'm just gonna give it a nice once over. I'm not gonna go super crazy with it. But once we get it all protected and polished up, then we can go ahead and put it all back together. And then we can check it out. All right, just wanted to give it a quick wipe down, get all the WD-40 and stuff off of it real quick. Make sure there ain't no fuzzies left from the steel wool or anything like that. I'll make sure I didn't miss any spots, which I definitely found a couple of spots that I missed. And yeah, time for some polish. Now I'm gonna ditch this rag here. Get us a nice clean one, and we can go to town on polishing it, so let's do that. I just like using this stuff here. Blue Magic, been using it for years. When I say years, I mean like decades, so it's good stuff. Just grab a little dab, not too much. Just start rubbing it in. All right, so I got everything polished up. I guess it's time to start putting this thing back together. I'm gonna start by throwing this back brake caliper on. All right, got the bars on, got the brakes on. Should go ahead and throw these levers back on. Front brake already feels a lot better just by moving that cable up just that little bit. All right, got the bars on, got the brakes on. Time for some brand new grips. I went with these Amy Tri grips. These are a repop reproduction grip, but these are the ones that we used to run back in the day. I consider going with white grips because this bike originally came with white grips, but I figured the seat is yellowing, the cables are yellowing, the hubs, you know, whatever. White grips, dirty hands. I'm just gonna go with black grips. Same reason I went with black tires, because I plan on actually riding this bike, so I don't want the grips to look disgusting after the first time I ride it, if you get what I'm saying. I'm gonna go ahead and use my air nozzle and install these grips, so I'll be back in just a minute. All right, guys, so before I put these grips on, I'm gonna go ahead and take a 5-cent nickel. I'm gonna stick it in the grip, push it all the way to the end. And basically what the nickel does is once you get it on the grip, you can see the nickel is pretty much the same exact outer diameter as the handlebars. That basically prevents the end of your grip from getting blown out. So just something I always did when I was younger, and I shall continue to do so as an adult. So there we go. Brand new grips. You know what I realized? That I didn't metal polish these handlebars, but I can do that after I get everything all together. All right, so before I put the wheels and tires back on, I think I'm just gonna take a couple of moments and just, you know, lightly, not overdo it, but just lightly polish up these brake levers, these brake calipers. And I also gotta do these handlebars as well, because I didn't do those. Frame's all polished, stem's all polished, everything's polished, but handlebars and the brakes. So take a couple minutes to do that, and then we can throw the wheels and tires on. All right, guys, so at this point I've got everything tightened up, cleaned up, polished up. Everything is ready to go. All I gotta do now is just put the wheels and tires on, put the chain on, and the last thing I got to clean is the thread and fork standers, but I'll do that last. But like I said, we're cruising. We're right at the home stretch, so let's throw the wheels and tires on, and then we'll be Sneezing. All right, so at this point, I've got everything all back together. Got all the brake cables and everything all reattached. Got all the calipers mounted and everything's good to go. Got the handlebars polished, got the forks polished. The only thing we got really left to do is to put the wheels and tires on. And we got to put the chain on after we cleaned it up. But let's go ahead and get these wheels and tires put on real quick. Oh man, this thing's looking sweet already. All I gotta do is get that chain put on it, so I'm gonna clean that up real quick. All right, so the last couple things that I have to clean up is this chain here and these fork standers. Now, this chain is pretty grody, but I'm confident we can get it to clean up. If not, I'll just put a new chain on it, but I'm trying to keep the bike as original as I can, so therefore I'm gonna try my best to clean this chain up, so let's get after it. Okay, so much to my delight, this chain cleaned up almost like a brand new chain. It just had a whole lot of caked in gunk, but yeah, I soaked it for a little while and scrubbed it, agitated it for a while, and it cleaned up. Like I said, it looks and feels like a brand new chain. All right, so the very last and final piece of the puzzle was those thread-in frame standers, and to treat those, I did something different with these. I basically made a little bath to soak them in, and what I use is this stuff called Barkeeper's Friend. Basically, it contains oxalic acid. So basically, you just sprinkled a bunch in here, filled it up with some water, and let these things soak for just a couple hours. Now, I probably could let them soak overnight, but they honestly look really good just the way they are right now. All right, so all things considered, I only soaked these things for maybe an hour and a half. They both turned out really nice. Like I said, I soaked them in that for a little bit. Then I agitated it with a brush for a little bit, and then I rinsed them off. I'm quite pleased. Look really nice. A lot better than they were. Rolling with it. Alrighty, y'all, so here it is, all cleaned up. And man, I cannot believe just how good this thing cleaned up. It literally looks like a brand new bike. From top to bottom, this thing cleaned up so nice. I'm glad I went with the black grips and the black tires. There was a moment I was considering getting white tires and white grips for it, but as I mentioned, I plan on riding this bike a little bit, so I decided to just go with black tires and black grips so that it didn't look disgusting after the first ride. But man, I can't believe just how well this thing cleaned up. Another future plan is to get rid of that sprocket. I'm going to try to hunt down and track down the original sprocket for it. But other than that, other than the tires, grips, pedals, and that sprocket, this bike is 100% original as it came from 1987. Original cables, original everything, which is pretty hard to believe. Normally, you know, these bikes get so beat down and they're either too far gone to be saved or just parts get, you know, switched up and lost and mixed and matched over the years. But you could just tell whoever owned this bike took really, really good care of it over the years. And I plan on doing the same. I plan on holding on to this one for a very long time, because I really enjoy the way this thing looks, and I really enjoy the way this thing rides as well. So, but anyway, you guys, as you can see, this thing cleaned up really nice, and it really didn't take anything more than a little bit of time and some elbow grease. We probably got this whole thing cleaned up in about 2.5 to 3 hours. So if you just work diligently and just kind of keep plugging along, it don't take long. But man, I've already said it maybe 50 times, but I just can't believe how nice this bike cleaned up. But yeah. But anyway, you guys, if you guys actually stuck around and watched this entire video, I really appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. How do you think it turned out? I think it turned out really nice. Anyway, you guys, I think that's going to do it for this one. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to shoot them in the comment section below. I'll be sure to answer them the best that I can. So until the next one, you guys, I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This thing rides so nice. I can't believe it. Not only does it look like a brand new bike, it literally rides like a brand new bike. I can't even get over it. rolls nice, the brakes work good, feels nice and solid. This thing turned out awesome. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Sitting low, just hanging out in the garage, coming to you guys. I'm outside the garage now. No longer in the garage. What do I do? Back in the garage.